and 10 gals, Insomnia from UnrealTek.net, a division of BlenderTek.com here, and welcome to another little quick tip video. Today I'm going to show you how to rig and set up an animation blueprint for a basic vehicle in Unreal Engine 4. When I was doing this for the last game jam, I wish I had known how easy it was, because that would have saved me having to figure it out on my own. I was originally going to go with a double wishbone setup where you have multiple points and multiple bones that you have to have follow, but it turned out that unless you're doing a racing simulator, a very basic setup like this is going to work just fine. So how Unreal Engine works is basically just the wheels move up and down in the Z-axis for the suspension. And so yeah, unless you're going crazy off-road vehicles, you're really not going to notice it. Even when off-roading. So anyways, remember, create your way and let's get started. As you can see here, I'm working in Blender, but the same thing applies in Maya, Modo, whatever you're using, 3ds Max. It's really all the same concept. So what I've got is a car, truck you could call it. I'm not going to tell you exactly what model it might be. Body that was made for our game jam, and so it is on its own. It's one complete mesh. I've named it body. I should name it body main just for clarity. And it's got the suspension and everything, the fake suspension attached to it, and then we've got the wheels. And this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky, but still very easy. They are set up so that they are perfectly centered. And they don't have to be perfectly centered. I mean, if you're making a really weird vehicle or a tank or something, they don't have to be perfectly centered, but it's going to make your job a lot easier. And on that note, having something like this where we have a vertex right in the middle is going to make your job a lot easier, because if your bones are off by even a hair, you'll see them wobbling in game. And so other than that, that should be it. So we have each wheel and the body they have their origins or their pivot points, rotation points, whatever you want to call them, at the same spot. In this case, it's the very center of the grid, but pretty much anywhere will work. It's really quite simple. And then we have our wheel, front left, front right, and rear left. So what we're going to do now is go into, I guess it would be front mode in Blender. I'm going to go into orthographic. And so I'm just going to select my truck here. I'm going to move the cursor there. And so that is directly down the center of the vehicle. We know that, so that'll be nice and easy. So all we're going to do is add a, I'm going to add a single bone, and we're not going to be able to see it because this truck is huge based on what we were going for in the game. So we're going to hit X-ray, and we'll go into edit mode. We're just going to grab this straight up, just so that we can kind of see what's going on. It doesn't matter where this bone is. You could have it going up into the sky if you wanted. You could have it just tiny. Whatever works. As long as it's centered in your vehicle, you're pretty much good to go. So that is your first bone, and if we expand our armature, I've gotten in the habit now of renaming all these root, just because I know Unreal likes to work with a root bone, and you won't get it if you don't rename all these root. And so this bone, if we go to the bone tab, we're going to call it body main. Let me just turn off my Skype. So this first bone is body main, and as you might have guessed, we're going to weight our body to it. And we're pretty much almost done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to extrude a bone straight. Go into edit mode first. We're going to grab this bottom joint. We're going to extrude a bone straight back along the X, and then we're going to turn on vertex snapping, and however you might do this in your program, and we're going to grab along the X, so it's moving only in the X direction. We're going to snap it right back to those center vertexes I was talking about. Whatever you want to call them. I always get called out on that. And then we're going to go down, so grab along the Z. We're going to do the same thing right to the center. So I believe that's right there. So that should be centered, looks like it. It's right sitting right there on the fake diff. Alright, so that is good to go. And this is just a fake bone. You could give it a name if you wanted, but we can just delete it after. So now all you have to do is extrude along the Y, obviously, and we just want to take it somewhere nice and even. You want all your bones to your wheels to be the same length. So they don't need to be, but it's gonna make your job a lot easier and your physics a lot easier to deal with. So I'm gonna go GY, and I'm just gonna snap it right to those triangle fan verts that we had. Now, one thing in Unreal that I've noticed with working with Blender and vehicles, that is, your wheel bones, you need to flip them. So that would be W and switch direction. For some reason, using Blender and doing skeletal meshes like this, it likes to think that the root joint, what do you call that, the head, I believe, I always get them mixed up and get called out on that too. The head joint, it's where Unreal thinks the wheel is. So originally I had them way back here, and I was like, what the heck, my truck's falling over, what's going on? So that is that. All we have to do is just call this bone the exact same thing that you want your wheels to be called. So I'm gonna go wheel rear left, RL. Make sure it's not connected to anything, and make sure it's not parented to anything. Basically make sure that in pose mode that this bone moves completely on its own. So now all we have to do is go back. We'll go back into edit mode. We'll extrude along the Y again. And we're just gonna set it up. So grab along the Z, should already be set there. Yep, 0. Grab along the X, make sure it's centered. Yep. And then grab along the Y and set it right to that vert there. Perfect. And then we'll just grab it and switch directions again. And we're gonna call this wheel rear right. And then again, make sure it has no parent, it's not connected. We can now delete this this mid bone if we want, because we don't need it. Now we're just gonna move to the front, so we're just gonna extrude along the X. And then we're gonna go GX, we're gonna get it right to the center there. I don't know why it's not showing me the wireframe, but GX to the center, wherever I think the center is. And then GZ, bring it down to that height. Perfect, looks pretty good. And then we're going to obviously extrude along the Y to that point. There we are. We'll do it on the other side, GY. Come on, you had it, there you go. All right, so we're gonna name those. So this is wheel front left. Oh, it's got a parent, we gotta clear that. And we don't want it to be connected. All right, this one's got a parent too. This is wheel front right. Did I put right? No, front left, front right. Perfect, okay, and we can delete this one. So we are all set up on that side. So now all we have to do is weight them. So we'll start with the body. So make sure that this body main bone is selected in all modes, and then if you select your mesh and go to, actually sorry, I found a faster trick for this. If you take if you do the regular parenting, so we're going to select all our wheels and our body, then we're going to select our armature, we're going to hit Control P to parent, we're going to armature deform with empty groups. So what this does is, if we go and select a mesh and go to the mesh detail, or what do they even call it these days, the object data, we now have these vertex groups for each wheel and the body, and that's why I suggest calling them the same thing as the mesh. So this will make it a lot easier, because what we have to do is we need every single vert in the body, we need it to be weighted to 1.0 to this bone, every single vert in the wheel. We need it to be weighted 1.0 to its bone, and so on and so forth. So this is very easy. All we have to do is take the body, select every single vertex, select body main, and assign with weight 1. Deselect, select, we're good. We can of course always test that. You can hit Control-Tab to go into pose mode, and as you can see, it is definitely weighted. It's good to go. I hope your truck doesn't do that in real life. So we'll move on to the next. We'll go wheel front left, tab into edit mode, select all the verts, wheel front left, assign, wheel front right, assign, wheel rear left, assign, and wheel rear right, assign. We'll give them all a quick test by going to our armature, alt tab into pose mode, rotate along the Y. So as you can see, that is working just fine, although I have snapping enabled for some reason. Weird, that's why it's doing all those weird things. Okay, so there we go. That's rotating perfectly centered. That's rotating perfectly centered. That's rotating perfectly centered. I realized we forgot something. The keeners out there will have noticed it, and that looks like it's rotating just fine. We need to flip these bones. We have to do that in edit mode. Tab, W, switch directions. You can also hit Alt F. Alright, perfect. And of course this bone. Now, even though your truck shouldn't do that in real life, it's looking now a little bit cleaner. Alrighty, so, and of course at any time you can check those by going into weight paint mode. You want pure red on that bone and blue for all the body bones, or all the wheel bones, sorry, and so on and so forth for the rest of them. So now all we need to do is select all, Control A, apply rotation and scale. However, we have a problem. It is not facing positive X. So let's rotate it along the Z at 180. So it's facing positive X, and up is Z, because that's what Unreal wants. So we're gonna apply rotation and scale again. You can always check that in the N panel by selecting everything and making sure your rotation and location is zeroed out. And in Maya, your scale will be 0 too, but it should be 1 in Blender. So we're good on everything. So now we can go ahead and export it. We'll make sure our units are set to metric first, 0.010, because that's what Unreal likes, and that means I need to scale this by 100. And I need to select everything. Whoa, what's going on there? Let's undo that. Select everything, scale by 100. There we go. Select everything, apply rotation and scale. Make sure it's all zeroed out, perfect. Alright, so now we can export it, and that's just the cutoff distance there. So now we can file, export, FBX. So we'll just we'll send it out to digital art. Good enough. We'll call this S150.fbx. I've got a preset here. I'll show you how it works. UE4, whoops, come on, UE4 skeletal meshes. So in this case, we don't have animations, so I'm gonna uncheck baked animation. However, this is how you should set it up. You want scale 1, X forward, Z up. You want the armature and the mesh, nothing else. You don't need this. It can be set to its stock, auto, off, etc. Geometry, apply modifiers, yes. Smoothing, normals only. Tangent space, as long as your normals are all good. Armatures, you don't need to do anything. And animation, you want baked animation for animations, but we don't need them in this case because we're gonna use an animation blueprint. So we will export that FBX, no errors. So we will open up Epic Games Launcher, and we will open up a project. I'll just open up my 410 test project for the heck of it. Alright, so now that we're in Unreal, we can go ahead and we can import that. So I'm just going to import what we just exported. Import, export, import, export. So we want to import a skeletal, we want the mesh, we don't want any animations, it's good as it is. We don't want materials or textures because we don't care today. Import. Just gonna open up the project that we did have in 4.9 because I used that exact same model. I did the exact same thing. So I'll just quickly go through it for you guys to show you how everything's set up. So that's the truck that we just made, imported, and with a simple texture. And when you import it, you'll get a physics asset. And so by default, it's going to create not these shapes, and you're going to want these shapes. Now I have two different bones in here because I left those bones that we deleted. So all you need to do is select everything and then delete. Go to your root bone, right click, new body, and make it a box. I'm getting these weird flickering issues. I thought it was 410, but it seems to be just maybe my recording. Anyways, just make it the size of your body. You don't want it to touch your wheels if possible. You want it to extend further than your wheels, but it is pretty forgiving. That said, Unreal vehicle physics are not great without a lot of tweaking. Anyways, then go to your wheels and right click, new body. You can select them all with shift, and you don't want a fill or a box, you want a sphere. And as you'll see, it creates nice perfect spheres to roll on, even though it doesn't actually roll on these wheels, but it will pull to one direction if you don't have these the same size and perfectly centered and perfect spheres. And the last thing you need to do, which I've forgotten in 2 tutorials attempts at this now, is select all those wheels and make sure they're set from default to kinematic. I am not using source control at the moment, so I'm just going to make writable. Then you need to go to anywhere you want, animations. I have all this set up. Make a animation blueprint by right clicking blueprints, or sorry, animation blueprint. Go down to vehicle anim instance. That's very important because it has the wheel handler node, and then just pick your there it is, pick your vehicle's skeleton. So in the animation blueprint, we go local to component, then you do a wheel handler. I don't know why it's giving, but anyway, then you go and add a wheel handler node and component to local. Save, and no, I'm not connected, so why are you asking me about source control? So now all you have to do is open up a map. So new blueprint, and the default pawn will be the F-150, or the S-150 as I like to call it. There we go, it's there, it's driving. The wheels are not rotating. I can totally look into that in a second, but as you can see, it's working just like a truck should, or a vehicle. So let me show you the blueprint for a vehicle really quick. So what you want to do is I guess I first show you how to create one of these. Right click blueprint class, let's just go from stock wheeled vehicle. And so in here, just select the mesh, select your mesh, S150, because I can't see the other one technically. SAM 150, use animation blueprint, choose the one you just made, so that is animBP S150. Then go to our vehicle movement and wheel setups. And so what you want to do is choose a wheel for every single, choose a bone for every single wheel. So remember, we called them wheel front left, front right, wheel rear right, wheel rear left. Some wheels for it to use. So I'm just going to save that and go back to the wheels. So to create a wheel, you right click, go to blueprint class, and then search up the wheel, and you'll see a vehicle wheel. Select that, and we'll just call this S150 wheel. And if you open that up, it's a data only blueprint. The size needs to be bigger for this big truck, and you don't want 70 degrees turning, you want something like 40. And a tire type, you can choose to make your own, but the default tire type is fine. If you want to make your own, just right click, go to miscellaneous and data asset, tire type. And if you open that up, you'll see you just can set the friction. So we have our wheel set up. We'll compile and save. We'll go in here and we'll select it for all of them. S150 wheel, S150 wheel, S150 wheel, S150 wheel. Yes, the rear wheels are going to turn because I made them all the same, but hey, it's a big truck. So now if we hit play, we should almost have everything. The wheels are not wanting to turn. New blueprint. Let's try that. New blueprint. I was using the old one. So we need to add a little bit of input. So let's go input action. Input action. Now that we've got our wheels set up, and they should be right, really. What do we got? What do you say? What do you say? What do you see? Where is drive? Okay, input axis, I think it is. Input axis. There we are. Move forward and move right. So what you want to do on these is take them, and all this stuff's set up for you. So we want to set throttle input and throttle based on the axis value, and on here we want to set steering. Compile that up, save it, and play. And we don't have a camera, but as you can see, the wheels are turning and we're good to go. Now if you want to continue setting up your vehicle like a regular vehicle from the game, I'm going to go through this really quick. We're going to add a spring arm with a space in it, and then on that we are going to add a camera. And take your camera, parent it to the spring arm, make the spring arm the correct length. In this case I know it's 600. Set your rotation to -20, give it a little bit of height, in this case about 50. Make it about 10 for a regular sized vehicle. And your camera, give it about 5 degrees positive, and you should be good to go. And your spring arm, you want to enable camera rotation leg at about a value of 3. Compile, save, play, and we have ourselves a monster truck, and it has front and rear steering, so it's not going anywhere in a hurry. But that is really how easy it is, and that is Unreal Engine 4 vehicle physics for you. That is what it likes to do, so that is why it takes a lot of tuning. One thing I'm going to show you really quickly is the wheels. In this case, they actually worked out perfectly. They don't, okay, they're going to the ground a little bit. This all depends on your wheel setup. If I change this to 150, you'll think it's driving on the wheels that you see in modeled, but it's actually not. It's actually driving on those cylinders. So you can see, now it's going really slow. It's raised up because we are actually driving on cylinders on the bones, not the actual wheels that we modeled. So you have to take that into account, A for looks and B for handling. You can see because we use such a big size, it now has a much slower acceleration rate with that. So that is how to set up a vehicle in Unreal Engine 4 using Blender or what other software completely from stock. I want to say thanks again for watching, and we are now taking donations due to someone suggesting that I should at www.paypal.me/BlenderTek. That's BlenderTek. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos. We're on social media on the links on your screen. If you dislike this video for some reason, please tell us why so we can continually improve our videos based on your community input. We also take requests. We'll see you next time. Remember, create your way.